Come with me as I check out an old ground sluicing operation called the Chinese diggings. Before we go look at the site, let's first go over what ground sluicing is. This technique uses low-pressure water to flush gold-bearing sands to a sluice box. River cobbles would then be picked out by hand from the basin they're mining. If you're looking for a ground sluicing site, we'd expect to find a canal and a pile of cobbles in a depression. We'll start by looking at the canal. This trench would have supplied the site with water. Part of the mine sadly was destroyed by a parking lot and a highway. There were a few pits near the trenches. I wonder if they were exploratory shafts that have been filled in. You can see the whole site sits in a depression here. Here you can see where the canal spills into the basin. I wonder if there would have been a flume to channel the water to a specific spot they wanted to mine. We are now walking in the basin. A maze of trenches crisscross this basin. These trenches were not part of the ground sluicing operation, but more on that later. Anyone else think it's particularly dystopian to be a bum camping in a 150-year-old mine while millionaires live only a few blocks away? You can see the cobble field of hand-picked rocks from the ground sluicing mine here.
Not sure how to get into the trench.
Despite being called the Chinese diggings, there aren't any hard historical records of who worked this mine. I do know that it's been called the Chinese diggings for a long time. In Up and Down Sunset, an autobiography of a young woman who grew up here in the Great Depression, she writes about visiting the diggings as a kid. From this, we know that the site was considered a quote-unquote old mine in the 1930s, and the idea of Chinese miners working here has been part of the area's local oral history for at least 90 years. So take that for what you will. I believe this site was worked by two separate operations, the ground sluicing operation and whoever dug these trenches. I draw this conclusion from two things: the geology and these trenches show no evidence of flowing water in them. We can even see pick marks in the walls in some spots. An alluvial clay binds together river cobbles and sand down here. It's really like a young sandstone that hasn't yet fully consolidated. This clay would have been difficult to cut through using water. What I think happened here was above this clay there would have been a layer of gold-bearing sand and gravel. They mined these layers using ground sluicing. Then they hit the clay and they stopped because of the increased difficulty. This ground would have had a fine flour gold. I doubt any nuggets would have made their way this far down off the mountain. Let's say the ground sluicing operation was run in maybe the 1850s. This site may have lay idle for a bit till another company of miners reopened it, and they would have been the ones to dig these trenches. There are other sites with trenches nearby. You can see this used to be a trench and it's only about 3 miles away. Well, let's get back to the subject of this video. I suspect these trenches were dug to cut through the clay and get to another layer of pay dirt. A daylit trench was preferable because this ground would have been too soft to tunnel in, and the deposits are relatively close to the surface. What I don't know why is why they'd shoot off to the left or the right, and the height varies too. I don't think this soil and rock would have been wheeled out of here using wheelbarrows. It's far too narrow for that. I think the miners may have carried it out in baskets. Can you imagine that too? That's just some raw speculation, though. I think given the site was considered very old by the Great Depression, whoever dug these trenches must have re-abandoned the site by the 1890s. It's like being in a secret world down here. Up on the surface, the trenches are so small they're easy to miss, but down here you can easily wander around for 10 minutes or more and not see all of them.
Oh, look at that. You can see the pick marks in the rock. That's cool.
I don't recommend coming to check this place out. It's closed to the public and regularly patrolled. While the trenches have stood for over a century, having one collapse while you're in it would certainly be fatal. There's also the risk of falling into one from the top. And finally, there's poison oak everywhere. I feel itchy just watching this video. If you enjoyed my armchair archaeology, please subscribe. I get up to all sorts of wacky adventures, and your support is appreciated very much. Thanks for watching.